Emini Junkie here. Just wanted to give you a look at some of the tools we use in our room every day. This is not everything that we have available to us, but it'll give you a good idea of some of the things that we have going in our favor. And I'll just want to go through and explain a few things on the chart here. The first thing you'll see is obviously this bright green line that steps down. Okay, it goes from green to red. We call that our Emini Junkie trailing stop. It is based off the volatility of the market, and basically is if the market's below it, for the most part, there's some other rules along with it, but for the most part, if the market's below it, you're trailing to the downside. If it breaks through it, you're trailing to the upside. Now we have some other levels we watch. In fact, on this particular day, you can see the market did come through this level, but we actually had a physical trail that was behind it that was actually up above this 13 area. So although it looks like this trail was broken in this particular instance, we do have a moving average that takes precedence over this trail on a first touch type situation. So in this instance, this trail was still to the downside. Okay, so we have a trailing stop mechanism, and we have plays that are associated with that. Another thing you see on our screen are these teal colored bands. Okay, these teal bands, we call them our micro junkie bands, and these are levels that are given to our room members every morning prior to the market open. So for the screenshot you're seeing here, these are all levels that were on the screen before price was trading there, and basically they act as minor pivots, if you will, or support and resistance areas, not to be confused with daily pivots, R1s, S1s, things like that. But it is areas that as the market is moving down, since we're in this short trail, there's opportunities for you to get short as it moves into that pivot zone and take profits as it moves to the next one. And throughout the day, you'll see the market will rotate through these junkie bands back and forth, and we use those, and we have a technique, and we use those every day in our trading room. And I'll just pan forward here so you can see, how they play out the rest of the day. On this particular day, the bands held extremely well, and the market just rotates between them back and forth, and you can see that they do provide excellent opportunities for trading in and around them as they act as support and resistance as the market gyrates back and forth there. Now, another thing that I want to call your attention to is what we call our Emini Junkie bias. Okay, that is this first major red line you see down here at the bottom of your chart. You can see two different bands. One is called a bias and one is called a chop. I want you to think of the bias as kind of the wind, okay? Which way the wind is blowing your sail if you're on a sailboat. So in this instance, starting out, and heck, we'll go back to 6 o'clock in the morning here. As of 6 a.m. you came in to the room, you can see that your bias indicator is red. So that means you are looking for the market to move to the downside. You combine that with our moving average we have on our chart here, combine that with our trailing stop, combine that with the junkie levels, and what you want to do is you want to be trading to the downside, and as it pulls back into those levels, get short and take profit. So you can see in this instance the bias was red pretty much all morning. Let's just see, it's not until the market finds support after lunchtime, and you can see the chop indicator turning. The bias indicator doesn't turn until after 1:30, so you would not be looking for the market to do any major climbing until that bias shifts. And the other indicator on your screen here that I would want to talk about is this Emini Junkie chop. Now what this is, when your bias and chop are in agreement, that's like, green light, trade that direction, everything's a go. When you start getting discrepancies, that's kind of a heads up. So you can see the chop indicator here went green. That's a heads up that there might be a little deeper pullback, so you would want to wait to maybe the next junkie band level to get short. And you can see this one did go through the moving average, through that first junkie band, and went up to that next level. And like I said, we did have another moving average here that we were using that signified that was a good area to get short. So, but really that chop indicator we use it as kind of a caution light. When it's in agreement, everything's a go, but when it turns yellow, we have many things that it's measuring, and yellow is an indication that the market is going to go into chop or sideways back and forth price action, and you'll want to get out of applying a trending technique to that system. So when it turns yellow, we go into what we call edge trading, and we trade back and forth both directions. And you can see on this particular day, it was out of agreement a couple of times here, but it ultimately throws up the caution sign at 1240, and it says, hey, this market may start moving back and forth. And in this instance, you can see the market did move up a couple levels and back a couple levels, and you can see our chop, our bias indicator change colors, and here later in the day you did see this market rotate back and forth. And last thing I want to point out on this particular chart, on this given day we were talking about 1306.50. Okay, not only was it one of our micro bands, our micro junkie bands that is identified here by a teal level, but it was a band that we gave the room this particular day and said, hey, 1306.50 is a key level. We expect the market to trade down to that level, and when it gets down to that level, the bulls and the bears are going to start battling there. It was a key level for the day, so we said expect there to be support there initially. Ultimately, they can break it down. We expect the market to trade lower, come back, fight against that level, and then rotate around that level. So that was kind of our game plan going into that level on this particular day. And you can see the market rotated nicely between our micro bands as it came down, acted as support. The bears kept fighting. The bears kept fighting. Ultimately, we're able to break it down. You can see we jumped down a couple of levels here on our micro bands, but the bulls fought back, and you can see how the battle ensued over this line at 0650. And every day there's a different battle line. Okay, there is a battle that takes place in the market, and this particular day we said, hey, this was before we even got there. We told our room, look for us to push down through it, ultimately 2 junkie bands below her, and then fight back 2 junkie bands higher, and then a rotation. And you can see in this particular instance, they came down 2 levels lower. Our micro band held as support. We ultimately went higher. Only 1 band initially, rotated back down 1 band, but ultimately they went up 2 bands higher and rotated back. So our 1306.50 line created the battleground. Everything was short until our bias and chop said, caution, be careful. You saw the caution flag come out at 12:30. Ultimately, the bias starts shifting at 1:30, and you can see we were full-blown back and forth rotational trading, from basically 2 o'clock on, and it was just back and forth. And the market and our micro bands really allowed you opportunities to take advantage of this market. So anyway, we have our trailing stops, we have our micro bands, we have our Emini Junkie bias, our Emini Junkie chop, several moving averages we use, and key battle lines every day. So anyway, this is how we trade every day. It's available every day, and these levels are available before the market opens. I hope you'll take some time to check out our site. We'd love to have you in the room. Emini Junkie, thanks for watching, and have a great day.